Hey there, my name is Dante. You're watching my channel Bliss Beings. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing this video if it resonates with you. Today I want to talk about my experience with a plant diet in ayahuasca with the Shipibo tribe in Pucallpa, Peru. This was a really deep experience for me and one that changed me in a very powerful way, and it's something that I really wanted to do for such a long time. So I'll be talking about my personal account and what happens in an experience like this. Maybe it's something that you want to try in the future, and if so, you can find out more information, so keep watching. Um, so, where to begin? Yeah, I had ayahuasca numerous times over the past 6 or 7 years. And when I set out traveling 7 years ago, I really had this strong call to work with ayahuasca, as similar plant teachers had come to me and changed my understanding of things and my relationship with myself in already a very deep way. So I was like, oh, ayahuasca, that will take me a lot deeper. But I didn't have to go all the way to Peru to find it. And over the years, as the plant came to me more, it became clear that taking the time aside to go really deep and do many ceremonies in a short period of time would be very powerful and transformative. So I finally got the chance to do it here in Peru. Um, I went to a place called Pucallpa, and Pucallpa is an area where the Shipibo tribe is based. They've lived there all their lives. Well, what am I saying? I mean, that's the place of their origin, and many say that the Shipibo are the first to discover ayahuasca and use this plant. So many synchronicities just kept coming up. People talking about Pucallpa. There's other places where people also go to drink ayahuasca, though I felt like I wanted to be close to this specific tribe and experience what they do. Um, so I had so many contacts with the Shipibo. So many different shaman were recommended to me, to the point that I arrived in Pucallpa feeling totally overwhelmed. Like, who am I going to do this with? Because there are many shaman who are taking energy from people rather than healing them. There's what they call brujos, or witches, that lure people in and then steal energy from them, or even end up raping people. And this was not what I wanted to get involved in. And I'm pretty energetically sensitive, so I knew I would be able to tune into the energy of people. And a friend of mine recommended this Shipibo family, and we met them. And um, she seemed very nice, but she was also anxious, kind of shaking a little bit the first time we met, like, that leg tap people do. She was doing that a lot, and I was just looking at all the signs. And so the next day, I wanted to make sure, and I went to a place called San Francisco. Not like the city in the US, it's a Shipibo community, San Francisco. Many people go there to drink ayahuasca with the Shipibo, though I've heard many different stories coming out of this village having a kind of dark energy. So I went to experience it myself and see what it's all about. I had a contact there, and I met the father and saw where they were holding the ceremonies, and um, it seemed nice. It was cool that it was in the jungle next to these ponds, and more remote than where I would be staying otherwise. So then I met some people that were dieting with him, and I felt the energy was off. So I went for my first night with the ceremony with the shaman. Her name Sumira. I drank with her. First, it was the first night. It was just her, not her father, and her son, and really felt it was authentic. Really was moved by the medicine. The first ceremony, it wasn't like these deep visions opening up. It was more of a surrender, a relaxation, vomiting, which is always quite almost always part of the ayahuasca experience. And I decided quite clearly after the first ceremony that I would be dieting with them. So I talked to her a couple of times about all the plants we could diet. She asked, which one do you want to diet? And she explained the plants just by saying that it's a plant. It teaches you, or it teaches you Icaros, and it opens your heart, it opens your mind. Though after asking her about several plants, I came to note that she said almost the exact same thing about every plant. So I just kind of went with the feeling that I had being drawn to Bobansana, a plant about love, about opening the heart. And I just saw pictures of this plant and found it so beautiful. So yeah, I went with the Bobansana, and I also gained from this that it's I mean, modern people were so trained to like look at all the details. What are the benefits of this? What does it have in it? What are the compounds? How does it work? And their way is very different. It's like you receive the energy of it, you learn directly from the plant. You don't need to fill yourself with all the information about what this plant is and what it could do. You take and you receive the teachings. And so I had Bobansana, and it came as this very dark colored red tea in a water bottle. And she gave us the Bobansana the next day, and we drank half of it right before bed. And I woke up in the middle of the night just feeling very peaceful, like very soft. It had a very soft energy to me. Yet other people had different experiences where it kept them up all night and different emotions came up. For me, it was very soft, like taking a good little rest with Bobansana. So we drank that medicine actually only twice, though in later ceremonies it was mixed in with the ayahuasca. The second ceremony we had the Bobansana right before, as well as another plant called Tanti Rao, which is a very calming plant that just soothes the mind. And this ceremony, all of the shaman were there. So Sumira was maybe like 50 or 40, and her father was almost 100 years old, in his 90s, and very old man, very wise man, and her son about 35. So they all sang the Icaros together. But the grandfather, losing his voice a little bit, there was no real harmony to it, or you couldn't even make out really what he was saying. It sounded more like muttering, but still, in his energy, having dieted with the plants 22 years, I mean, that's if you take not just 22 years of his life. That's like, you diet a plant for a period of time, you don't eat certain things, you drink the plant often, and you drink ayahuasca, and you just focus on that plant. So 22 years had been set aside for taking different plants. The mother, 6 years, she said. So they had really deep experience and really deep wisdom. They all had very different voices, and the son sang not in even a Shipibo language. Often he was just singing tones and sounds, which was very similar to a lot of the work that I do and have been doing. So it felt like it was cool to see how also this lineage is evolving to go more beyond the traditional structure, just using these overtones and sounds to transmit the energies. And they were also such happy, bright, shiny people. I could really see just the difference in their eyes between these people and the other people in Pucallpa, that the medicine had really gone into them in a deep way. And it was also quite funny to note that they have a big family, and the rest of their family was there around the area, living close by, but only a couple had been motivated, had felt the call to work with the medicine. So it's not all Shipibo people that drink the ayahuasca. It's just those who have it in them, the calling, then come to work with the medicine and become shaman. So they sing these Icaros, but the Icaros for me, the first couple days, it was a lot to handle, just because the Icaros they weren't coming together in any cohesive way. They were all just singing in their own pitch, in their own time, their own thing, almost not even listening to each other. So it felt like this kind of cacophony of sound around me, whereas before with the medicine I'd been used to kind of people playing very melodious, like soothing, calm music. And the Icaros were not like that. They were in your face. They were all over the place in their pitch, and they would come around and they would sing an Icaro for each person, directly to the person in front of them, except for the grandfather, where you would walk up and sit in front of him. Um, and wow, these Icaros, they really taught me a lot. They brought me from being used to working with plants and just kind of drifting off in this dream space to really being fully present in the vibration that's in my body, what's going through me, what's distracting me, and what is really important. Um, so by the fourth ceremony, I came to love the Icaros, but I had to learn how to surrender to them. It was like a building progression every ceremony. The first ceremony, I didn't really feel the medicine that much. I just felt it in my body and my muscles. And from the second ceremony on, the visions became very strong and just bright, brilliant colors. And it brought me to this place of just joy and bliss several times after the huge frustrations. The other thing that was really frustrating was just my body adjusting to the jungle itself. Um, yeah, I would itch a lot. First of all, there were mosquitoes, but I'm not so bothered by them. Um, there was something else, and I never really figured out what it was. Just my whole body, my whole legs, from my knees up into my crotch, and all of that area down there, so juicy, was just constantly itching when I was in ceremony and when I was home. And some of the worst nights, it kept me up through the night. And during the ceremony, it really, really annoyed me until, again, I could just stop reacting to it, until I could feel it without touching it and without scratching it. When I would just sit there and I would allow the Icaros to be there, I would allow the itching to be there, I would allow my thoughts to be as they were, my fantasies to be as they were, and just breathe very deep. Um, the whole experience changed, and I would go into this peaceful state of like losing my sense of individuality and kind of merging with the whole energy of the ceremony. And it became very beautiful, so peaceful. Um, One of my intentions for working with the medicine was this sort of conflicts that had occurred in my life. These people who had really treated me very unfairly and were not willing to change. I was kind of seeking a way to make what was wrong right for a long time. For a while, I just suppressed it and ignored it. And actually, in Peru, working with Wachuma, the cactus medicine, I found that all of the emotions that I thought I had worked through just came right back. And after the ayahuasca, I feel like this is pretty much over. Like at a level, a mental level at least, this is entirely over. I've come to a new understanding. Though in the ayahuasca ceremonies, I'd have to go through some of these like very heavy fantasies, heavy imagery of like my relation with these people, and just accept it. Though one thing that was very very hard was also this understanding that came that whatever you're thinking with the medicine can become a reality much more easily than when you're not taking the medicine. So we all have the power to create our reality, and we can all send energy to others very far away. And one night, so I wasn't staying in the jungle. In the jungle, we were on the outskirts of Pucallpa because the family didn't have any structures built for their guests or their pasajeros next to where we had the ceremonies. So we would stay in a place where a really lovely lady would cook for all of us. She'd been cooking for diets for many years. It was her thing, because you have to eat quite a special diet. I'll talk about that then. So we were still kind of in Pucallpa, and we could hear sound sometimes. And one night the neighbors left on this terrible pop music for hours through the night, and I just got so irritated, and I went over and was like yelling at them, like, turn off the music, please, I need to sleep. And So it wasn't working. And I would go back to my bed, and then the itching would take over. And then I would be distracted by that. And then it was like, oh, well, at least I can express something towards these people. I can't express anything towards this itching in my body. Everything I do makes that worse. Though, yeah, yelling at them made things a lot worse as well. They weren't even there, I don't think, or they were sleeping, or they just were totally ignoring me. I have no idea what it was. Though, uh, somebody there who was also working with this family and working diets for a long time came to me and said, like, you've got to stop this, and explained to me that when you have these negative thoughts with the medicine, like, oh, this person should be hurt or should die, it can actually happen. And then you take on that karma because you put that energy out there. And that made a lot of sense of what had happened to me before when working with medicine on my own, which I don't really recommend working with ayahuasca on your own until you've really had a diet or this kind of deeper experience with people with the lineage, because that was one of the hardest things that ever happened to me. And I would find myself in these really negative thought loops about these other people, and then things would break around me, and it was like I couldn't stop it. It was really impossible to stop, because I was on my own, because I had chosen to take this medicine on my own, and there was no one around me to calm me down and bring me back to that connection, which you really do need. So luckily this time, I got this understanding. She explained it to me. You release this, you let it go. She did what the Shipibo always do before the ceremony, and often during the ceremony: tobacco cleanse by blowing tobacco into the crown, to the heart, left, right, sides of the body, back of the body, hands. And this tobacco cleanse just really calmed me down, knocked me out. She gave me some basil tea, and I slept like a baby. And it was actually after that the next ceremony, I was no longer bothered by the Icaros. That experience kind of brought me into a deeper understanding of what it really means to accept and surrender. That we're not in control of what's going on outside. And we can know this in a deep way, though it can take these experiences to really integrate that and really feel inside and know inside what is it like to accept and to surrender. And those were the key words throughout the whole ayahuasca experience: was accept, surrender. And as I could come into that, I would go beyond myself and just find myself filled with this ease, joy, and love. The second to last ceremony was not quite as easy. And I actually found that the less medicine I had, the harder the experience was, because you feel it. There's something working in you, yet it's not taking you past the edge. And DMT and channeled beings say this also about DMT, that DMT at every amount in the body is like a different plane that it takes you to. So just a little bit of DMT takes you sort of in between the worlds. It gives you the ability to connect more, and it starts to move energies in your body that need to be released. When you start to take higher and higher amounts, it sends you beyond, and it's like a interdimensional communication device. You open up as an antenna for these different beings to come. And throughout my experience with medicines, I've met so many different beings, extraterrestrials, animal spirits, ascended masters, those who've passed on, the spirits of shaman, and they were also here during these ayahuasca ceremonies, especially the ancestor spirits who the Shipibo work with and call in, were there clearing the energies out of space. But yeah, the second to last, the fifth out of 6 ceremonies, it challenged me in a way in that I didn't feel like it took me quite as deep. And also one aspect of this experience was I had just a little bite of cacao before the ceremony, which was not part of the diet. It was like 2 cacao beans. And as it's an MAOI inhibitor, I think that part of that experience was that it delayed the ayahuasca from entering my system at the rate that it should. So an MAOI inhibitor will make psychedelics last for longer and be a little bit stronger, though I also noticed that it kind of changed the experience, that before the visions were very strong, and I felt it in my whole body. And after I had the cacao that one time, I felt the energy more in my head. It was like trapped in my head, and the visions were much more subtle. It was still a deep experience, though it wasn't like being completely washed over. And then the medicine also stayed in my body for a lot longer, it felt like. So I learned after that why the diet is so important. And the diet itself really challenged me. Um, every day we had the same food. It was oats in the morning. Most people had oats. I chose quinoa instead. They started giving me eggs in the morning as well, hard boiled eggs, potatoes, all boiled. Um, and then lunch was potatoes, beets, carrots, broccoli, sometimes boiled with brown rice and with a special kind of whole wheat bread that was just for the diet without any of the things that would interfere. And dinner was like, yeah, soup, again, beet, potato, carrot, and rice, just in water. And this gets really monotonous. And not only that, there's no fat, there's no salt to kind of keep you grounded. And I would really feel the lack of fat and protein in my body and my muscles. I really wanted to do yoga during the diet, and I found that I could only do a bit. The first couple days I tried to do like a full hatha yoga practice, and then the next days I was just too sore to really manage. And then I began to do yin yoga, just little bits, especially like right before the ceremony. One time, that second to last ceremony, I did yin yoga for like hours during the ceremony, and it was really powerful just to like hold a pose for like an hour. Very simple, relaxed twist pose on the back with the medicine there, going really deep. And yeah, it it opened up a lot in my body. My body felt, after all of this, much lighter. A lot of the pains that were there before are no longer there. But yeah, this diet. Um, Towards the end, I just like started to rebel a little bit. Like, oh, I want to have some coconut meat. Oh, that's the one thing that was like the saving grace, is we could have coconut water, but not the coconut meat. So I ended up drinking a lot of that. And and I mean, we have this diet so that we make a commitment to the plant that we're working with. And it allows the plant to go deeper in our system. It allows us to stay more open to all of the energies, so we're not so super grounded and heavy. We stay open. And I felt its importance when I would sway from the diet, just those in those little ways. It was very different experience within ceremony. And yeah, dieting, wow, intense. I lost a lot of weight, and then right afterwards, I gained it all back immediately because I chose to just keep eating quite a lot. But yeah, maybe I didn't gain it all right back. I don't know. Um, the last ceremony was super cosmic and interstellar. Um, she gave me a lot more medicine than I had the times before. I had to ask for it, and I had to say like mas mas, and she allowed it. And yeah, after that, I at one point went out of my body, and well, no, I didn't actually quite go fully out. I just allowed this other energy, this later I discovered it to be a Syrian energy, entered my body and just began to speak through me in these languages, light languages that were unlike the light languages that I channel normally when I'm not in a deeper medicine work. And I just felt like, whoa, like really deep waves of understanding and connection with this language. And I saw a lot, but then the younger shaman came to me and told me to be quiet. I'm kind of distracting people. I could tell some people were a little bit freaked out by this language. But for me, it was just like total bliss. I was so far gone and deep in connection during this work. And I actually vomited all over the floor, which was not so nice. but I couldn't find the bucket. I was really kind of out of it. But hey, things like that happen. um, which is interesting as well that, yeah, 3 out of 6 ceremonies I purged. The first two, and then after that, the next three, there's no purge, nothing more to come out. Once I had a little bit more medicine again, it whoosh, came out. And yeah, at the end of that last ceremony, I just felt, like, wow, I did it. I made it through. And I was just filled with so much peace and optimism, and knowing that it was all worth it, that the journey was worth it and changed me in quite a deep way. Um, a lot of the shifts I understood, like the ability to surrender more, the ability to go beyond my limited ego self and expand to this greater cosmic selflessness and rest in that state. And that gave me the ability, when the triggers came again, to ask myself, who is triggered right now? Who is feeling this? Who is thinking this? Where does that self originate? And see beyond the self to really let the whole thing go. And that has stayed with me. And the peace has stayed with me. The optimism has stayed with me. The gratitude has stayed with me. And I'm quite excited to work even deeper with these medicines. And yeah, in the last vision, I also saw quite a lot that these Shipibo people were somehow connected to the aquatic beings. And it came up in other channelings that, and even in the indigenous folklore or mythologies, that yes, the jungle people are very connected to the serpent and to the reptile energy. And so I took with me this little pointy fish tooth that a Shipibo woman sold me in the street, to keep a recollection of that. And this serpent energy, this dragon energy, is like the primal force of survival, and also the ability to transform and change shape. And some have said that many shaman can develop the ability to shape shift into animals. And it's come up a lot in my work with others that that my soul has that ability to change shape, to use different technologies to change my own shape, to appear differently. And that's something that we'll be exploring more for sure. In general, these Shipibo people were very, very beautiful, so sweet and happy. And I met some others in Pucallpa and around that weren't quite as sweet and happy as the shaman we were with. And you really have to listen to your own discernment when finding shaman. Some are just in it for the money, and some are in it for even worse motives. So listen to what you feel and follow that gut response. And it also, just to say again, that the ayahuasca, if it calls to you, it calls to you. And if it doesn't, I think a lot of people are being brought into medicine work now as it's a trend, or they're under the assumption that I need to have this experience or understand this in order to be spiritual, or worse, to be cool. And if you don't have the call and you find yourself kind of plunging into something like this, it can actually be detrimental. If it's in your heart, it calls to you, and listen to it if it does. And if it doesn't really call to you, don't give in to anyone saying like, oh, you got to try ayahuasca this, ayahuasca that. Because we can do all the things energetically, internally, spiritually, that we do with ayahuasca without ayahuasca. And here in Peru, in these communities I'm in, I'm finding a lot of people who limit themselves in their sober space. It's like the magic isn't as real when they're sober, or they don't feel like they have the ability to do the things they need to do to change without the medicine. And I find that such a sad reality, because we have everything we need within us. DMT is already within us. Our brain produces it. It's a natural compound in the brain that when we truly live in a way that's fully authentic for ourselves, we go into a state where we produce our own DMT. You don't need to drink it, though it will help. You just have to know in your heart that it is right for you. um, there's a lot of people also taking medicine, and not actually changing, getting better. They release the pattern that they are working with in that medicine space, and then rather than integrating, they just lower their vibration again and bring back that same energy pattern. And they keep feeling called like, oh, I need medicine, I need to get well, and take much more than they need, and develop this kind of addictive relationship even with this medicine. And when I see this, I also find it very sad, though trust that these people will get the lesson that they need eventually. And yeah, I think it's important that we talk about this and more people come to understand it, that there is nothing outside of you that can really do it for you. You have to make the changes within you, and your heart knows which permission slip or which tool is the best one for you to transform, though you have to realize that it's you allowing your perspective to change that makes the real healing shifts inside. And the medicine work helps a lot, though you have to make sure it's your path. When I went to sit in front of the abuela would hold my hands. And first, you would do this thing on my head and blow tobacco, and then hold hands and sing these Icaros. And in these moments, so much emotion and energy would come up and then just wash through me. So these people do have a way to them that is so powerful and so beautiful, and I'm really grateful. And at the same side, there is this conservative aspect to the Shipibo, that they are not so open to things that are not part of their tradition. And this is the case such for a lot of shaman around the world, a lot of indigenous people, is that indigenous people right now are in a state of cultural survival mode, where the modern world is eating away at these old traditions, and they're doing everything they can to keep intact the knowledge that's been passed down in the way that it's been passed down. And it's important to keep those lineages alive, though it does give them another degree of limitation of not seeing the bigger picture beyond that. So one way I saw this with the Shipibo people was their resistance to other medicines that they don't know, like the combo, or sapo, as they say, is the frog medicine that is a purgative medicine and an energizing medicine that is a really deep healing, and one of the best tools in my toolbox. And the younger shaman came and said one time, like, look, okay, this animal comes from the earth, and in the earth there's great darkness. In our tradition, we work only with pure plants, and this way cures. In the earth there's darkness, and this sapo, this frog, it's not going to give you any light. It's only going to give you darkness. And I knew that there was no way to change his mind, so I just kind of was like, okay, yeah. And yeah, they don't want to change their tradition, and that's beautiful. But there is something very powerful that we can learn from them. And there's many other tribes and ways of working with the medicine in South America, some more bizarre than others, some Christianized. There's a whole plethora of different ways. I was called the Shipibo way, as it felt like the most ancient and authentic and simple. And that was actually one of the biggest teachings of the medicine as well, is keep it simple. A lot of the tools and rituals and things that I had used in the past on my spiritual path just seemed like, this is too much. This is like, this is making things more complicated than it needs to be. And I got this great understanding of the pure direct experience from the Shipibo and from this medicine, that really we come to our heart, we feel what's true to us, and we accept and we surrender to our heart and to reality around us. We feel ourselves as one with the plants, one with the jungle, one with each other. And this is just such an incredible peace and beauty like I've never experienced before. Maybe in like lesser degrees. I've experienced it before. And I'm grateful to know that it will continue to expand. And this is not going to be the last time I diet, though I'm so, so happy to eat food and chocolate again. It makes me really happy. So if you've gotten this far through the video, thanks very much for watching. Leave your comments, leave your feedback, share around. Check out my website, Bliss Beings, for info about channeling sessions, personal guidance, coaching, and all the rest. Blessings to you from Pisac, Peru, and I will see you next time.